Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. This time I am reviewing The Hero's Equinox by Antoine Bandele. This is the third book in the T.J. Young and the Orishas series, a series of YA fantasy novels all about West African, Yoruban, Nigerian culture, kind of that whole section. Except this one is a little bit different. We are starting to introduce more and more of other pantheons. You see the greater godly world all being interconnected amongst these pantheons, and we'll get into it more later, but I did appreciate that. However, for the most part, it's mostly the Orishas, the Yoruban Nigerian deities. Now, the biggest thing that was going against me for this one was it was a really long time since I read the previous two. I believe the review for book 2 came out 2 years ago. Had an entire leaving book 2 been coming back in that time period, and another year before that for the first book. So there was a lot of moments in this book where they were like, remember when this thing happened? And I was like, no, but I'm gonna take your word for it, character, because for you it's been a much shorter time than for me. But it didn't necessarily take a lot away. I'm sure there are some moments that would have probably hit harder if I could remember exactly what that character did or what that character said, but for the most part I could only remember just the big bold points, the big vague things. But this one definitely goes right along with the ending of book 2, and of course we will be spoiling that, so if you would like to look at those reviews instead, I'll have them linked down in the description below. Yeah, it's a little bit ago and the audio quality is probably worse, but I haven't changed that much. Regardless, this deals a lot with TJ and his fear of the water after the time an Orisha tried to drown an entire coast. It happened, and he's still kind of working through the trauma of that. But on top of that, he discovers that he has to save a god. Multiple gods, actually. There is a interconnected pantheon council, the Court of All, who has decided that Shango just didn't do the right thing at the end of book 2 and needs to pay for it. And in this world, he pays for it with what is called channeling. Rather than just being put in prison, he is essentially going to have his life force drained for the express purpose of trying to fight back against these creepy things called the God Eaters. Creepy honestly sounds too small for what they are. They're the massive, they devour actual deities. They're pretty intense. And TJ's draining this dude's power is not the way to do that. Killing gods to keep away things that kill gods. Where's the logic in that? So he and Co have to essentially find a way to break into a divine prison and free Shango and also his wife Oya. That's not too big of a spoiler. The trial happens pretty quick, and Oya is not a woman to let her husband be falsely imprisoned without saying something, doing something, really. So she's also there, and we also got to save her. But this is a really big focus on the ancestors, even more so than previous books, because as we know, TJ has been grieving his older sister. The book 1 literally starts with her funeral, and he's been struggling with that and following in the Golden Child's footsteps. However, this book, he is very quickly becoming the Golden Child himself, which I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit bummed about because I loved that concept in book 1, the one non-magical member of a magical family aspect. I always love that dynamic in fantasy books. But he is definitely becoming a celebrity in his own right at this point because of everything that's happened in the past 2 books. And it gets even bigger. There are some really big reveals in this one. But he is still growing the relationship with his friends, Ayo and Manny, and he and Manny I could finally stop internally screaming at them. If you know, you know. And there were some cute moments with them moving through. But the book definitely did feel a little bit slow at times. Just not a complete slog, but it is over 700 pages, and it is very easy to make 700 pages feel too slow if you're not very careful about pacing. And in all honesty, and I'm sure I mentioned this in my review for book 2, magic schools are not my fave. They're just not my cup of tea. I work in education. Okay, I get enough of the education stuff at work. And this one, it was kind of weird because it was oh yeah, we got to do this big thing on the Hero's Equinox of the title, saving the gods. Oh, but yeah, you got to go to class for this semester. And that's the same thing that the second one did too. And then you had the first one with the summer camp. Like, there's always been that juxtaposition of learning the things in a classroom type setting with the big thing that has to be done at the end of the school year. Always at the end of a school year, you know, you can't miss out on that school. But the biggest thing that made it feel not a slog, but it made it feel kind of, looking back, I felt like some wheels were turning for no reason. And I didn't realize it until the end. Let me clarify farther. Okay, so the way they have to get to Shango is through the ancestral paths. Basically, they can't get through any divine way without alerting the divine. So they're like, okay, we're going to go through our ancestors. To go through ancestors, you have to have an ancestor with you. So these teenage kids, because yes, it still has to be them, they're the only ones with like the juice to do the thing, have to have at least one elder of their family with them. So we have TJ and his mom, who's like gung-ho, let's go. We have Manuela and her aunt, who are the only diviners in their family. And we have Ayo and his dad. Now, TJ's mom, here for it, ready to go. Honestly, it's a little bit too here for it. And TJ is still worried about all those years he spent clouded, non-magical, and how, like, would she still love him if he wasn't this magical? Regardless, the big frustration was with Ayo's dad and Manuela's aunt. They both dig their heels in, do not want to do this plan. Like, fight back hard, do not want to do this plan. Are actively obstacles, do not want to do this plan type deal. Now, you discover over the course of the story that they both have reasons for not wanting to do this plan related to trauma. That was all well and good. This is a big book about ancestry and ancestors, and TJ is finding out a lot about his, great-grandfather that he takes after, that he was named after, and there's a lot of emphasis on that. So my expectation for this, and the reason that I did not think it was wheel-spinning at first, was, okay, we're gonna have moments of cycle breaking. We're gonna have moments of familial healing, essentially, with these two characters. And at near the end, the last 200 pages or so, which when the book is 700 pages, 200 pages out from the end is near the end, it is Manny and Ayo as the POV characters. And side note, I loved that. Plot reasons, TJ ain't around for reasons, and it has to be Ayo and Manny, like, being the POV and figuring things out without him. Loved it. I would love more of that in the future. But I thought, like, okay, this is the time. Like, in the book, weeks are passing where TJ is gone. They have time to do the thing, to talk with their parents, their aunt, get it to go, and do whatever needs to be done so that their parents or aunt will come to that acceptance, essentially. But no, that never really happened. In fact, their, relatives are still not here for it, still not doing it. And so they just decide to go do a thing, a big planned thing without them, get essentially their party crashed by the relatives, and suddenly, oh yeah, actually no, we're with you. Why? And that's where it felt like, okay, that was just wheel spinning. Because if we'd actually had that theme of where we need to work through things as a family, we need to heal this hurt as a family. Now we have healed it, or at least gotten on the road to healing. We've accepted it. Let's go do the thing. But it was just like a flip of a switch. Like, they were obstacles until the plot needed them to not be obstacles, and suddenly they're fine now. And there was even one moment with Ayo's dad and, like, the big scene that would have hit harder if we had had more of that come to acceptance moment earlier. Like, I wish we had more of that. I wish that had been more of a thing in the resolution sense and not just in an obstacle sense. Because looking back, yeah, it does kind of feel like they were just obstacles for the sake of being obstacles. And that is really hard in a YA. You have to figure out a way to, like, take the adults back a little bit so that the teenagers have to be doing all the protagonisty things that an adult really should be doing instead. But you don't want to make it obvious that that's what's going on. And also, I really love familial healing moments. Like, it's my favorite. But like I said, the last 200 pages are where it's at. The really big scenes, the kicking up of the tension. It's always you thought the last antagonist was bad. Nope. Going one up. Here's another new, even better antagonist. And a lot of really interesting reveals about TJ and his whole deal. as just a being and his magic that I really liked. But the real kicker, and Mr. Bandele knew what he was doing. Is like the last couple of paragraphs of the epilogue. Like, it really just like smacked you in the face and then walked away. There is a reveal. Literally the last 2 paragraphs. And you're like, I had to reread it. I did not, I'm like, there's no way I understood what that just said. I did. And I did like have some like low-key hints. But even looking back, I don't think that it like, I thought those hints were going to lead to something. Never thought it would have been that thing. And I love guessing twists. Okay, it's one of my favorite. I'm not gonna lie, this is hurting my reputation. I'm usually much better at guessing twists than this. Had no idea that was coming. But we did have our big epic fight scene that I really liked. I also liked the way they actually got into the prison, and that it kept a kind of otherworldliness. In general, I think this series has done a pretty good job of that, of keeping the gods as otherworldly beings that aren't wholly bound to mortal logic and mortal emotions, which kind of works. I don't want my deities in fantasy to just be souped up human types, you know? Overall, it was very long, but the writing style was still flowing. They still spoke very realistically. I was still reminded of all the kids I work with that speak that exact same way. So if you have enjoyed books 1 and 2, you will probably be enjoying this one. I assume that a lot of people who are watching this review are probably going to be watching it to be like, is the 700 pages worth it? Yes. It expands the lore and the world building. You get to see more aspect of mixing of the pantheons. We have a new character, Freya, who is half Nigerian, half Scottish. And she's a lesbian. Let's go. Happy Pride. And she talks about how, like, she has both Celtic druidic magic and Orisha-based diviner magic. And there's a lot more emphasis on, you know, that things will be, you know, not mixed up, but, like, interwoven, because this is a modern world where people have very, very like interwoven backgrounds. Like, you know, I'm white, but I still got like 4 different ancestry lines going back. Granted, most of them are, you know, the British Isles or Europe, but still, like, the idea of different pantheons being interwoven just by people intermixing in their lives. I would love to see more of that. I'm pretty sure we will, because we're seeing a lot more interwoven of the deities at the divine level, because we have everybody gotta work together to make this work. These guys coming for all of us level conflict, which I do love. I love gigantic conflicts. I am a melodramatic bitch. So yes, if you're asking yourself, well, I like the books 1 and 2, but will this 700-pager be worth it? Yes, it will. And I know I was talking about how it dragged a little bit. That might have just been my magic school not a fan of-ness. I could have worded that so much better. Regardless, yes. Still worth your time. Yes, all 700 pages. And I am intrigued to see where this goes next. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.